Like, everything else is, like, for me to pursue anything else is failure, in terms of, like, we're not getting hung up on the job, we're not getting hung up on the person, we're not getting hung up on the relationship. It's about the feelings, it's about what feels right, it's about, you know what I mean? So we're moving towards, like, let's go to love and say we're moving towards love and looking for our ideal partner. Like, every time we fall on our face, bang, back up. It's okay. That was a misstep. Move along. Like, you know, the goal is at the end of the path. If we keep tripping every 2 meters, that's okay. Like, you know what I mean? Just put your hands down. Do you know what I mean? So, like, if we know that we're looking for that 1 in a billion, that 1 in 8 billion, that 1 in a lifetime, it's okay that 99% of the relationships aren't going to work. Put your hands down. Like, you don't have to protect yourself, because, like, it's okay if things don't work out. Like, do you sort of understand? Like, you don't need to protect yourself. That's insecurity, when you feel a need to protect yourself. When I'm around others and I feel vulnerable, I feel a need to protect myself. It's an insecurity. But the problem is my insecurities are linked to my psychology. So when my insecurities are linked to my psychology, if I get on a bad train of thought and my narrative gets out of control, or I'm not aware of my narrative, okay, or things happen that make me feel less than, it's going to cause me to spiral out of control and to be forced onto a ledge of action and decision. So to understand this is just to understand that when I feel insecurity, okay, I don't have to give into it. If I give into it, I will spiral out of control, and, you know, my ability to progress towards my manifestation will temporarily go on hold. If I choose to forego, okay, that insecurity. So let's say I don't feel good enough. Okay, I'm not good enough. That's okay. Like, what now? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, if someone makes me feel insecure, that they get attention from everyone else, like, that's okay. You know what I mean? It's sort of like, that's okay that I'm insecure about that. Do you know what I mean? But I don't have to worry about it. Like, we tend to try and hide and avoid our weaknesses and the aspects of ourselves that we don't think is honorable, or we don't think is our strengths. And we hide them away and we camouflage them so that we cannot see them, and then they become brightly obvious to everyone else, like an arrow in our leg that we've wrapped some moss around and pretending like we've got something growing. Like, we can act like we don't have a problem all we want, but when we're walking with a limp, everyone knows. So to understand this in the context of relationships is, when I give into my insecurities around, let's say, not being good enough, okay, like, I can hide it from myself all I want. I can pretend like it doesn't exist. I can pretend I'm this infallible person that, you know, doesn't make mistakes, that is perfect. Everyone else is a fuckhead but me. And the problem with that is, when I go into every relationship, as soon as that insecurity comes up, it becomes abundantly clear to everyone else but me. So the problem with trying to avoid those aspects of ourselves that we don't want to look at is, later on it becomes much harder to root them out and find them. These insecurities are just where our ego doesn't feel good enough, where our ego feels like, you know, if this person loved me, they would do this. You know what I mean? And we start like this. If it's meant to be, it'll be. Like, if it's meant to be, you'll take action. We naturally move towards what we want. Whatever we put our attention, focus, and action into is what we want in life. So if I tell myself that I'm manifesting my dream life, but I put all my focus, attention, and time into shit things and negative things that make me feel like a shit cunt, like, you know what I mean? I can say I'm manifesting all I want, but what I'm actually manifesting is a negative environment. So the thing is we have to get comfortable in front of the mirror, comfortable looking at ourselves, and even if we don't see it, if we hear that we're insecure, we look at that mirror and we visualize ourselves as that insecure person, and then we look at the actions that person would take, and we look at the actions the secure person we want to be would take, and it's sort of like, you know, we get comfortable and we look back on our actions. Did we act insecurely? Did we act securely? Were we secure about who we are in life? Were we insecure? Did we feel good enough? And if we find that I acted insecurely, well, we have to change those actions because we see where insecure gets us. When we move towards our dreams in life and we give in to insecurities, what happens? We talk ourselves out of it. We allow those dreams to slip away, when in truth, we just throw them away. Don't lie to yourself. Don't hide from yourself. If you're not moving towards something, it's because you don't want it. Accept that. Accept the pain that comes with it, and choose to either go the insecure path in life or the secure path in life. If you say you want that and your actions show that you do not want that, the only thing to do is to change the actions. And that's what it means to become secure, is that realization that, you know, I am the one that has to enforce the change. So for example, if we look at relationships, if I'm manifesting a secure attachment and a secure relationship, okay, and you know, every time I get into a relationship, I act insecure and try and create insecurity within that relationship because I don't feel good enough, then what I'm doing is I'm saying I want a secure relationship, but when every relationship comes to me, I create instability and insecurity, and I create an insecure relationship. And the reason for this is so simple when we look at it, that it's just we had a choice to create security or to create insecurity. So if we think about this in terms of a relationship, when I feel vulnerable, I can speak about it and I can show my vulnerability, or I can hold it in and hide it and protect it so no one can see it. Like, do you sort of understand? So then I'm feeling vulnerable and at risk, but to the outside world I look normal, I look like nothing's happening. Like, do you sort of understand? So we just got to understand that it's in this guise of protection, it's in this guise of rationale, of the right thing, of, you know, hiding those insecurities from ourselves, you know, hiding hiding those aspects that we don't think as being the honorable part of ourselves and pretending like they don't exist, but enforcing everyone to put up with it, to endure it. Because when we are insecure, like, we create insecurity. So if I'm insecure about myself, like, I need to feel like you're insecure about yourself so that I feel comfortable enough to be with you. And that's a funny thing, because then when we move over to goal achievement in terms of career, if I feel insecure about my career, like, you know, and I don't feel good enough, and I'm, not going for what I want, I'm limiting myself to a role or a job that's comfortable. You know what I mean? Like, I can vocalize to myself and those around me what I want and where I want to go, and I can move towards it, or I can sort of hold everything inside and sort of create this, like, raw nerve of vulnerability where I'm so occupied with keeping up the illusion that everything is all right and that nothing affects me, that, like, no one notices, and then I think no one cares. Do you sort of get it? Like, we have to be vulnerable to show people our internal state of being. If we always go in the way of protecting ourselves and holding masks and illusions, yes, we will feel within our ego that we are more secure, but like walking with an arrow in your leg, you can pretend the arrow isn't there all you want, but every time that muscle contracts, you're going to feel that twinge of pain. Do you know what I mean? So, like, we just have to be secure within ourselves to admit to everyone, yeah, there is an arrow in my leg, and yeah, I am hurt. Do you know what I mean? So in a relationship, like, it's saying, yeah, I feel insecure. Do you know what I mean? It's not that we're giving into it and going off with it and sort of feeding it, but it's sort of, we got to be open to admitting it and just saying, yeah, I am not perfect. I am not whole. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, we go through life trying to pretend like we know everything. We go through life trying to pretend like, we've got everything together, that we've got the secret to the best life. And in truth, like, we all have no idea, and we're all pretending to ourselves that we're not actually in pain when we are. Like, that's the thing. Like, you know what I mean? Cycles repeat. When you notice, if you're chasing a manifestation in terms of anything, and you notice a pattern or a cycle happen again and again and again, what that indicates is that there is a variable that you're not accounting for that is causing that result. And it's easy to point outwards and try and point fault at everyone else. But in truth, if you're repeating the same thing again and again and again, evidently you're in the wrong, you're the problem. So it's sort of like, if we think about it like this, if you're taking an exam, and every time you take the exam, you get 49 out of 100. And you say, it's because of this, it's because of that, it's because of this. And it's like, at a certain point, like, you just got to realize, like, the way I'm going about this is the wrong way. I am wrong. And it's in understanding that statement, that I am wrong, I am fallible, that you break the ego, that the ego is broken. Because the ego cannot comprehend that. That's why the ego tries to hide all of our insecurities, all of our flaws, all of our limiting beliefs. and tries to over promote all of the good, virtuous things about ourselves. So it's an understanding that we're not getting into our feelings in terms of I am the worst person, I am this, I am that, no one will ever love me. It's more of, once we become aware of it, when we feel that feeling, we name that feeling, and when we feel it, we know why it's happening, and we alter it. So when I feel insecure, I vocalize my feelings. Like, the more I vocalize my feelings when I feel insecure, the more secure I become around other people. Like, do you get it? It's not an insecurity. It's an insecurity to hide your problems and to hide those aspects of yourself that make you feel less than it is to just admit it and confront it. Like, because when we admit it and confront it, like, even if you say to someone, like, I feel insecure, and then they laugh at you and they make fun of you, like, it doesn't really matter, because, like, in the moment that they laugh at you, you realize they're not the right person. Like, why was I talking to this dickhead? So that's an important thing to understand, is that just know when you speak your truth, when others look to attack that truth, it's not a scary thing. It's not something that is something to be feared, because you know the truth, that they're attacking that truth out of fear of new. So, like, for example, someone that laughs at you when you share your vulnerabilities with them, well, what'll happen there is they may laugh, but because they laugh and they act that way, it's a clear indicator that they don't accept their sort of own vulnerabilities. So when people sort of brush off when you be vulnerable with them and sort of act like, oh, it's no problem, I don't have those insecurities. Like, when people do that, it's funny, because it's a clear indicator that, like, that's the ego running on autopilot, that confirms that person avoids looking at those aspects of themselves. So just realize, like, when you find yourself doing that, where it's sort of like, I don't have problems in these areas, I'm not wrong in these areas, just know that that's your ego lying to you, convincing you, don't look over there and fix those problems, don't look over there. Because the thing is the ego doesn't want to accept them, because they lower the ego's standing in society. So if I accept that I'm an insecure person, I become less than others in the eyes of the ego, because, others are all telling me they're secure and I don't feel secure. I must be not as good. Like, do you sort of understand? So we just got to understand, it's only through acceptance and admittance that, like, we can overcome, like, our own personal struggles and challenges. So when we're always lying to ourselves about how I don't have this problem, I don't have that problem, I don't have problems with this, like, to anyone that says they don't have addictions, go 5 days without eating. You can go up to 14 days without food, any food at all. So go 5 days without food and tell me you're not addicted to food. Like, everyone that says anything is full of shit, because as soon as they say, I don't have this, as soon as they give in to that ego, they have lost, because the ego is the illusion of the self. So what I mean by that is the ego is the illusion of self, because the ego creates this image of who we are, and nothing can alter that. So if I believe I'm an honest person, every memory or every instance of me being dishonest, I must hide. For if people knew it, what would they think? So, you know what I mean? If I want to be an honest person, I have to look and accept those aspects of me. The times where I wasn't, where I fell down. Do you know what I mean? Where I didn't speak my truth. So, an important thing to understand is that when I feel myself fall into my ego, like, that is me lowering myself in terms of like, I am closing